Every morning starts the same way. Ebner wakes up at 6 sharp no matter what day of the week it is. I hear him get out of bed. The floorboards of our old house creak under his heavy footsteps. A minute later, there's the sound of water running in the bathtub. I can lie there with my eyes closed, but I know his every move by heart. Here he is shaving 3 minutes, brushing his teeth 2 minutes, showering 5 minutes, no more. Saving water, he says. I know I have exactly 10 minutes of silence before he walks into the kitchen and starts rattling the dishes, reminding me it's time to get up and make breakfast. I'm 67, and for the last 45 years I've been waking up to this monotonous rhythm. Only it used to go to work, but now it doesn't go anywhere. Ebner's been retired for 7 years now, and in all those 7 years he hasn't let me out of his sight. Muriel, where are you going? Muriel, you forgot to turn off the light in the hallway. Muriel, that blouse doesn't suit you. Muriel this, Muriel that. Once upon a time I thought his attention to detail was caring. Now I know it's control. But it's too late to change anything. It's too late. Everyone in Powell knows Ebner Holloway, a former postal inspector, a man of principle and order, a man who spent 35 years inspecting post offices in 3 counties, making sure every letter reached its destination, every package delivered on time. The post office is the circulatory system of the country, he liked to say. Perhaps that's why he carried his inspection habit so easily into our family life. I'm out of bed when I hear him come out of the bathroom. My joints ache from arthritis, but I don't give any sign. Any sign of weakness irritates Ebner. You're not old enough to complain, he says, though he himself swallows pills at the slightest pain and demands silence. In the kitchen, I automatically pull eggs and bacon from the refrigerator. For 45 years now, we've had eggs and bacon for breakfast on Tuesdays and Fridays. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays, oatmeal. Thursdays, peanut butter toast. Sundays, pancakes. Ebner likes order. Ebner likes predictability. Did you get the paper yet? He asks as he enters the kitchen. It's early, I answer, even though I know the paper is already on the porch. I just want to finish making breakfast without his comments about what's going on in the world. I'll check, he says, and walks out of the kitchen. I quickly crack eggs into the pan. 2 for him, 1 for me. The bacon is already sizzling on a nearby burner. Through the window, I can see the neighbor's house. Pearl Swinney lives there, a widow who moved to Powell 5 years ago. Sometimes she and I talk through the fence as I work in the garden, and Ebner busies himself with his tools in the garage. Pearl takes painting classes at the community center, attends book club, and even went on a Caribbean cruise last year. As she talks about her life, I smile and nod, unable to imagine such freedom. The paper's here. Ebner returns to the kitchen and spreads the paper out on the table, neatly unfolding the pages. I set the breakfast plate in front of him and pour coffee into his favorite mug, the white one with Best Postal Inspector written on it. A retirement gift from his co-workers. He never uses any other mug. What's on your schedule today? He asks without taking his eyes off the paper. I have bills to pay, grocery shopping to do, I answer, sitting down across from him with my plate. Don't forget to go to the post office. I need to send a birthday card to Haverford. It's his birthday next week. Trevor Haverford is Ebner's former coworker, whom they haven't spoken to in the last 15 years because of some work conflict. But Ebner sends birthday cards anyway. You have to have some decorum, he says. I nod and start eating. The egg is cold and not as tasty, but I'm not complaining. Once upon a time, before Ebner, I had dreams. I wanted to be a teacher, to teach high school literature. I even went to college, the first in my family. But then I met him at a dance in a city park in the summer of 1978. Ebner was handsome in his postal clerk's uniform, serious, trim, with a clear look in his brown eyes. He spoke so confidently about his future, about his career in the postal service, about the house he was going to buy. After a few dates, he took me out to a restaurant and told me I was exactly the woman he'd been looking for all his life. I was 22, and his words struck me as the most romantic thing in the world. We were married 6 months later. I dropped out of college. Ebner thought a wife should take care of the house. Why spend money on education if you're going to stay home with the kids anyway? He said. And I agreed because I loved him and believed he knew what was best. But the kids never came. Year after year we tried, went through examinations, tried different methods. Finally, when I turned 25, the doctors told me I had fertility problems, and the chances of getting pregnant naturally were very slim. Ebner was furious, not at the doctors, not at fate, at me, as if I'd purposely decided to deprive him of an heir. "You're always in the clouds." Ebner's voice snapped me out of my reverie. "I asked if you'd remembered to buy a new filter for the coffee maker." "No, I didn't," I answered, though I had actually forgotten. "I'll have to go to the store earlier than I planned so he won't notice." After breakfast, Ebner retires to his office, the former guest bedroom he remodeled after he retired. There he spends most of the day arranging stamps and albums, reading specialized magazines about the Postal Service, and reviewing our finances. Every dollar I spend has to be accounted for and justified. I clear the table, wash the dishes, and start making a shopping list. At that moment, the phone rings. I flinch. It rarely rings this early in our house. "Hello?" I say, trying to keep my voice low so as not to attract Ebner's attention. "Mom, it's me." Randall's voice sounds excited. My heart squeezes with joy. My son, my only child, who came into our lives when we'd given up all hope. A true miracle, born when I was 32. Randall, named after Ebner's father, though I wanted to call him Daniel. "Randall, honey, how are you?" I whisper. "I'm fine, Mom. I'm just calling to see how you're doing." I can hear the concern in his voice, and I understand the reason. The last time he came to visit us 6 months ago, Ebner and I got into a huge fight over something petty, and Ebner yelled at me in front of my son. Randall stood up for me, and he and his father almost got into a fight. Since then, Randall calls more often than usual, like he's checking to see if I'm okay. "I'm fine, son. I'm fine as usual." "Is your dad around?" "No, he's in his office." "Good. Mom, I was wondering, are you happy with your life?" The question catches me off guard. Am I happy? What can I say? That I've spent the last 40 years living in a cage? That my dreams have long been buried under a pile of chores and Ebner's expectations? That the only joy in my life has been him, my son, and that I am eternally grateful that he has grown up so different from his father? "I'm fine," I answered evasively. "How are you doing at your new job?" Randall sighs but doesn't insist. He realizes that I can't speak frankly. "The job's great. I just got a promotion. I'm now head of information technology." "Congratulations, honey. I'm so proud of you." Randall works for a large technology company in Seattle. He left Powell right out of college and only comes back for holidays or special occasions. I miss him every day, but I understand why he keeps his distance. Ebner never approved of his interest in computers, thinking it was a waste of time. He wanted his son to follow in his footsteps and work for the Postal Service. Their relationship had always been strained, and after Randall announced his decision to study computer science, it became almost hostile. "Mom, I've been meaning to ask." Randall starts, but then I hear Ebner's footsteps in the hallway. "I have to go, honey. I'll call you later," I say quickly, and hang up just as Ebner enters the kitchen. "Who was that?" he asks, looking suspiciously at the phone. "Telemarketing," I lie. "They were offering some kind of insurance." Ebner hums and opens the refrigerator, checking its contents, even though he's just had breakfast. "Don't forget to buy milk," he says, closing the door. After leaving college, I stayed home for a few years doing chores. But when Randall turned 5 and started kindergarten, I began to feel more and more alone and useless. That's when I decided to get a job. Ebner was against it, but the financial arguments, the extra income for the family, and my son's future education convinced him. I got a job as an operator in the call center of the insurance company Powell Insurance. The work was monotonous, answering calls from clients, redirecting them to the appropriate specialists, filling out forms. But for me, it was a breath of fresh air, a chance to socialize with people, to feel part of something bigger than our home. Ebner set strict rules. I had to come home right after work, no corporate events or after-hours socializing with coworkers. He took my paycheck and managed it himself, giving me a small amount for pocket money. "I know better how to manage money," he would say, and I didn't argue. It went on like that for 27 years until 3 years ago when I retired. Now, my days are filled with household chores under Ebner's watchful eye. Cooking, cleaning, laundry, gardening, all on a strict schedule, all under his control. Sometimes I feel suffocated by this routine, this constant supervision. But then I remind myself that I'm 67 and it's too late to change. After lunch, while Ebner naps in his chair in front of the TV, I go to the garden. It's the only place where I feel free. Ebner has no interest in gardening, considering it a woman's work, so here I can do things my own way. My roses, hydrangeas, and lilies are my little joys, my quiet conversationalists. Pearl waves at me over the fence. Muriel, how are you today? She asks, coming closer. Same old, I answer, smiling. How are you? Getting ready for your book club class? Yeah, we're discussing Elise Waverly's new novel. You could come with me. You'd love it. I'm shaking my head. I don't think Ebner would approve. Pearl frowns. Muriel, you're 67. You're a grown woman. You don't need his permission. I remain silent, not knowing what to say. Of course, in theory, she's right. But in the 45 years I've lived with Ebner, I've gotten so used to asking his opinion on everything that the very thought of doing something without his approval makes me uneasy. I'll think about it, I finally say, even though we both know that's just a polite way of saying no. That evening, after dinner, while Ebner watches the news, I pull out the photo album and flip through the pages quietly. There's our wedding. Me in a simple white dress, Ebner in a strict suit. We're both smiling, but if you look closely, you can see the tension in my eyes. Here's Randall's first day of school. He's so small in his new uniform with a backpack bigger than himself. Here's his high school graduation, a tall young man with my blue eyes and Ebner's determined chin. And here's the last picture of us together, taken on Christmas Day. Randall standing between us, trying to look joyful, but his smile doesn't reach his eyes. I remember how Randall grew up, how he gradually drifted away from his father and reached out to me more and more. How Ebner tried to make a man out of him, forbidding him to cry, to show emotion, to take an interest in anything that didn't fit his idea of manhood. How Randall resisted this pressure, becoming more and more withdrawn at home and revealing himself only at school, where his talents in math and computer science were recognized. Their open confrontation began when Randall turned 16. He received an offer for an internship at a technology company in a neighboring town, which required traveling after school 3 times a week. Ebner flatly forbade it, believing it would distract his son from his studies and household responsibilities. For the first time in his life, Randall openly objected to his father, and it led to a huge fight. I eventually intervened, convincing Ebner to allow the internship on the condition that Randall maintain excellent grades. The son complied, but the relationship with his father never recovered. When it came time to go to college, Randall chose a university as far away from home as possible. He received a scholarship to cover most of his expenses and worked part-time to avoid depending on his father's financial aid. During his studies, he came home only for Christmas and summer vacations, and even then, only for a short time. After graduation, he accepted a job offer in Seattle and left Powell for good. I miss him every day. Sometimes I think if it weren't for Randall, I wouldn't have made it through all those years with Ebner. For my son's sake, I found the strength to smile, to pretend to have a normal family, to put up with my husband's control and manipulation. But now that Randall is living his life away from us, it's harder and harder for me to find reasons to keep playing this game. What are you looking at? Ebner's voice interrupts my thoughts. Just old pictures, I answer, closing the album. Waste of time, he snickered. I'd better make sure you ironed my shirt for tomorrow. The blue striped one. I nod and walk to the laundry room, where the ironed shirt is already hanging. I checked it this morning, knowing Ebner would be sure to ask. In 45 years, I've learned to anticipate his demands, to do them ahead of time to avoid reproach and resentment. In the evening, lying in bed and listening to the measured breathing of a sleeping Ebner, I think of Randall's words. Are you happy with your life? No, I'm not. I've lived the life Ebner chose for me, not the one I dreamed of. I gave up my ambition, my individuality, my freedom. I became a shadow, a pale reflection of the girl who once wanted to be a literature teacher and open the world of great books to children. But now it is too late to change anything. Too late for new beginnings, new dreams, a new life. I have resigned myself to my fate, to this cage, which has become so familiar that I can no longer imagine myself outside its boundaries. Or is it still not too late? The thought flares like a tiny light in the darkness of my mind, but I quickly extinguish it. No, at my age, you don't start over. At my age, you thank fate for a roof over your head and relative health. At my age, one lives to the end, not to live again. With these thoughts, I close my eyes and sink into a restless dream in which I'm young again, full of hope again, free again. A dream that will melt away with the first rays of the sun, giving way to reality, another day in the shadow of Ebner Holloway. You're right, I mistakenly got ahead of myself by including events from Chapter 3. I'll rewrite the chapter following strictly the outline for Chapter 2. The week before Mother's Day, the phone rang at exactly 3 o'clock in the afternoon as Ebner went for his daily walk around the block. It was his invariable routine, 45 minutes, no more and no less. The route was always the same. 2 blocks north, a right turn, 3 more blocks to the park, a brief respite on a bench by the pond, then the return trip. Ebner said it was good for the heart, though I suspected it was more of a habit than a health concern. I quickly picked up the phone, knowing I had about a half hour before he returned. Hello? Mom, it's me. Randall's voice sounded unusually serious. How are you? I'm fine, son, I replied, sitting down on the edge of the chair by the phone table. How are you? Did something happen? No, nothing's wrong, he said after a short pause. I was just thinking about you and thought I'd call. Is your father home? No, he's out for a walk. Oh, that's great. Mom, I wanted to talk to you about something important. My heart sank. The last time I heard that tone was when he told me he was moving to Seattle. Not that it was bad news, but it distanced him from me even more. I'm listening, honey. Mom, I've been thinking about this for a long time. How are your finances? Does Dad still control all the money? The question took me by surprise. We'd never discussed my and Ebner's financial situation with Randall before. It was a taboo topic, a taboo imposed by my husband years ago. Money is not a woman's business, and it's certainly not a child's business, he'd say whenever either of us tried to talk about the family budget. Well, you know, Dad, I replied evasively. He always liked to be in control. That's not an answer, Mom. I could hear the impatience in Randall's voice. Do you even know how much money you have in your accounts? Where your pension is going? What about your grandmother's inheritance? I felt the blood rush to my cheeks. My mother had died 5 years ago, leaving me a small inheritance, an old house in Oregon, and some savings. Ebner insisted on selling the house, saying it would be too much of a headache to maintain real estate in another state. I agreed, as I always do. He put the money from the sale into some account I never saw. I guess it's okay, I mumbled. Ebner says he invested it all for a profit. And you believe him? Randall asked. Mom, have you ever seen those account statements? Do you know where your money goes? Randall, why are you asking me these questions? I was beginning to worry about my son's insistence. Your father has always taken care of our finances. He wouldn't let us go without a livelihood. Randall sighed heavily on the other end of the line. Mom, please, just answer me. Are you happy? Are you content with your life with your father? That question had already come up in our last phone conversation, and just like then, I didn't know what to answer. Am I happy? What does it even mean to be happy at 67, after a life spent in the shadow of another man? Yeah, I started, but then I heard the sound of the front door opening. Ebner was back earlier than usual. I have to go. Your father's back. Mom, wait. I'll call you back, I whispered quickly, and hung up just as Ebner walked into the living room. Who was that? He asked, eyeing the phone suspiciously. Pearl, I lied without blinking an eye. In the years I'd lived with Ebner, I'd learned to lie without giving myself away. I asked for the recipe for lemon pie. Ebner hummed, clearly not believing it, but he didn't ask. Instead, he headed for his office, tossing it over his shoulder. I'll do the paperwork. Don't bother me before dinner. I nodded and went into the kitchen, thinking about Randall's strange questions. Why was he suddenly so interested in Ebner and I's finances, and what did he mean by asking about my mother's inheritance? The next day, Randall called again, this time around 11 in the morning, when Ebner was in the garage sorting through his collection of old tools. Mom, I'm sorry about last night, he began without preamble. I didn't mean to upset or embarrass you. That's okay, honey, I replied, glancing out the window at the garage to make sure Ebner was still busy. But I don't understand why you're suddenly so interested in our finances. Randall was quiet for a moment, as if searching for words. Mom, I work for an IT company. I have friends who specialize in cybersecurity and financial fraud. They've taught me to pay attention to certain signals. What signals? I interrupted him, feeling my anxiety rising inside. Secrecy in financial matters, for example, or sudden nervousness at the mention of money, or a desire to isolate your partner from information about the family accounts. These are often signs of, financial abuse. I gripped the phone so tight my knuckles turned white. Do you think your father? I don't think anything, Mom, Randall answered quickly. I just want to make sure everything's okay, that you're protected. Mother's Day is coming up and I want to give you a special gift. But in order to do that, I need to know a few things. What kind of gift? I asked, partly wanting to change the subject. It's a surprise, but I promise you'll love it. Just trust me, okay? There was so much warmth and care in his voice that my eyes watered. My boy, my Randall. The only person in the world who really cares what happens to me. Okay, I whispered, I trust you. Good. Now I need you to do something for me. Can you find some financial documents? Bank statements, tax returns, sale papers for Grandma's house, anything you can find without drawing Dad's attention. I cast an involuntary glance at Ebner's office door, which was always locked when he wasn't home. I don't know if I can. Your father keeps all his important papers under lock and key. Try, Mom. It's important. One more thing. Randall lowered his voice, even though it didn't make sense, considering we were on the phone. If I send you anything in the mail, don't tell your father, and don't open it in front of him. Okay, I agreed, though the prospect of hiding something from Ebner made me almost physically uncomfortable. In the years I'd lived with him, I'd grown accustomed to total transparency. He could check my every move, every word, every purchase. The very thought of a secret was unsettling. I love you, Mom, Randall said before he hung up. Remember that. After the call, I sat staring at the phone for a long time, trying to make sense of my son's words. Did he really suspect Ebner of some kind of financial fraud? And if so, what should I do? My musings were interrupted by the sound of the garage door opening. Ebner walked in, wiping his hands on a rag. Who were you talking to? He asked, nodding at the phone. This time I was ready for the question. The insurance company called. Something about a new policy for retirees. Ebner frowned. Why are they calling you and not me? I'm in the insurance business. Probably because the policy is in my name, I replied, remembering that my health policy was indeed in my name, although Ebner always made the payments. He didn't sound convinced. Next time, put me on the phone. I'll take care of it. Sure, I nodded, relieved that he didn't ask further. The rest of the day went as usual, cooking, cleaning, laundry. But thoughts of the conversation with Randall kept me on my toes. What did he mean by financial mismanagement? Could Ebner really be doing something illegal with our money? That evening, as Ebner watched his favorite show about antique car restoration, I decided to take a chance. Saying I needed to check to see if there were any important papers in the pocket of his old jacket before I took it to the dry cleaners, I slipped into his office. I didn't have the key to the filing cabinet, but I knew Ebner sometimes left papers on the desk. Indeed, there was a stack of papers lying there. I flipped through them quickly, snapping pictures on the old smartphone Randall had given me last Christmas. Ebner didn't think I needed a fancy phone, but Randall had insisted, saying he wanted to see me occasionally during our conversations. Most of the documents turned out to be utility bills and flyers. But then I came across a letter from the bank. It said that a large sum of money had been transferred from our joint account to some other account I didn't even know existed. The date of the transfer coincided with the sale of my mother's house. My hands trembled. I quickly photocopied the letter and put all the documents back in place, making sure to arrange them exactly as they had been before. Then I slipped out of the study, quietly closing the door behind me. Did you find anything? Ebner asked, keeping his eyes on the TV. No, nothing important, I answered, hoping my voice sounded normal. I couldn't sleep for a long time that night. The letter from the bank kept me awake. Where had Ebner transferred the money from the sale of Mom's house? And why didn't I know anything about it? The next morning, when Ebner left for a meeting with his former coworkers, a monthly ritual he rigorously observed, I called Randall and told him about the letter. I thought so, he said grimly. Mother, this only confirms my suspicions. Dad's hiding something from you, and I'm going to find out what it is. But how? I asked. If even I, living in the same house as him, can't get to the truth, how can you do it from Seattle? I have resources, Randall answered evasively. And don't forget, I'm good with computers and databases. Trust me, Mom. I'll handle this. After our conversation, I felt strangely relieved. It was as if the heavy weight I'd been carrying for years without realizing it suddenly became lighter. Someone else knew about my situation. Someone else cared. Someone else wanted to help. My peace of mind was short-lived, however. That evening, Ebner returned from the post office with a strange expression on his face. Had Randall called you recently? He asked, taking off his coat. My heart skipped a beat. Yeah, a couple days ago, I answered, trying to sound casual. Just to see how we were doing. That's it? Ebner stared at me intently, as if trying to read my mind. Yeah, why? I tried to make my voice sound surprised but not scared. Nothing. He turned away and went into his office, but before he closed the door, he added, It's just weird that he's suddenly become such a caring son. He used to not call for weeks, and now all of a sudden he's worried. I didn't say anything, but I felt uneasy inside. Did Ebner suspect something? Or worse, had he somehow found out about the conversations I'd had with Randall? In the days that followed, the tension in the house only grew. Ebner became even more attentive to phone calls, often picking up before I did. He also started checking the mailbox several times a day, which was completely uncharacteristic of him. I usually brought the mail myself, and he would look through it after dinner. Randall continued to call, but now our conversations were short and discreet. We both knew Ebner could be eavesdropping. Mom, I sent you something, Randall said during one of these calls. It should arrive just in time for Mother's Day. What is it? I asked, glancing nervously at the kitchen door where Ebner could appear at any moment. A surprise, Randall answered. But believe me, it's a very special gift. I think it's going to change a lot of things, and not just for you. His cryptic words only made me more anxious. What did he mean? What kind of gift could change our lives? Randall, I'm not sure. Trust me, Mom, he interrupted. Everything's gonna be fine. Just make sure you get the package yourself. I wanted to ask more, but I heard the front door open. Ebner had returned from his walk. I gotta go, I said quickly. Love you. Love you too, Mom. Be careful. I hung up and pretended to dust off my phone when Ebner came into the room. Who were you talking to? He asked, squinting suspiciously. Pearl, I was getting better at lying. She asked if I wanted to go to book club with her next week. And what did you say? That I needed to think about it. I shrugged, trying to look nonchalant. Ebner hummed and headed for his office, but I noticed him cast a wary glance at the phone, as if he doubted my words. The next few days passed in a strange, tense atmosphere. Ebner became even more taciturn and suspicious. He often locked himself in his office, and muffled phone conversations came from there. One day I heard him raise his voice, saying, No, that's impossible. He couldn't have found out. All the paperwork was done correctly. Those words only confirmed my growing suspicions. Ebner was hiding something, and Randall had somehow found out. But what was it? And how far would it go? That evening, 2 days before Mother's Day, Ebner surprised me by suggesting dinner at a restaurant, a rare event in our lives. He usually thought restaurants were a waste of money. We haven't been out together in a while, he said with a strained smile. I thought it would be nice for you. I agreed, though my gut whispered that Ebner was up to something. His sudden generosity was too uncharacteristic to be sincere. In the restaurant, Ebner was unusually talkative. He reminisced about our first years together, talked about how we dreamed of the future, made plans. It all sounded fake, like he was trying to remind me of something that had long since ceased to exist. You've always been a good wife, Muriel, he said, pouring me wine, another rarity. Loyal, caring. I appreciate that. Thank you, I replied, not knowing what else to say. In 45 years of marriage, Ebner rarely complimented me. You know, he continued, lowering his voice, I've always done everything for our family. Everything I've done has been for us. You understand that, don't you? There was something almost pleading in his eyes, and it scared me more than his usual controlling gaze. Ebner never asked for understanding. He demanded obedience. Of course, I answered automatically, though inside I was screaming in disbelief. Good. He seemed to relax. It's important to me. To let you know that everything I did was for our own good. After dinner, when we got home, Ebner went straight to the mailbox and checked it, even though it was late and the mail had long since been delivered. He did this several times each day, growing more and more nervous as Mother's Day approached. The next morning, the day before the holiday, Randall called again. This time, Ebner was home but busy in the garage, so I was able to talk relatively freely. Mom, the package will be delivered tomorrow morning, Randall said. The courier will bring it personally. Please make sure you get it yourself. I'll try, I replied, not sure I could do what he asked. But your father, he's been acting strange lately. He's very nervous, checking his email all the time. He knows, Randall said grimly. But it's too late. Mom, I want you to be ready for change. Maybe a big change. What are you talking about? I asked, feeling the anxiety building inside me. Just trust me, okay? And remember that no matter what happens, I'm on your side. Always. After that conversation, I couldn't find a place to go. What was Randall up to? And why was Ebner so nervous? It was like some strange chess game in which I was just a pawn who didn't understand the overall strategy. In the evening, Ebner, as was his custom, drank several glasses of whiskey. Usually, he drank very moderately, considering excess a sign of weakness. But tonight he sat in his chair, staring gloomily into space, taking an occasional sip from his glass. Is everything all right? I asked cautiously, approaching him. No, damn it, it's not all right, he suddenly exploded. That ungrateful puppy thinks he can meddle in our affairs. Who are you talking about? I asked, though I knew the answer perfectly well. Randall, of course. Who else? Ebner took a big sip of whiskey. He's up to something. I can feel it, and I'm not going to let him destroy everything I've built. Ebner, Randall is our son. He loves us. He wouldn't do anything to hurt us. You're so naive, Muriel. Ebner shook his head. You always have been. Do you think he cares about you? About us? He only cares about himself. He always has. I wanted to object, to say that wasn't true, that Randall had always loved me, always cared for me. But I didn't. It was useless and dangerous to argue with Ebner in this state. If he sends anything, Ebner continued, pointing his finger at me, you don't open it without me. Do you hear? Don't you dare. Okay, I agreed quietly, seeing no other way out. Ebner finished his whiskey and staggered to his feet. I'm going to bed, and tomorrow I'll be home all day. No walks, no meetings. I want to be here when the damn package arrives. I nodded, feeling my heart pounding in my chest. The situation was getting more and more tense, and I had no idea how it was going to end. I didn't sleep much that night, listening to Ebner's heavy breathing beside me and thinking about the strange events of the last week. What had Randall discovered? What was Ebner hiding? And most importantly, what awaited me tomorrow, Mother's Day? Mother's Day began as usual with the sound of water running in the bathroom and Ebner's heavy footsteps on the creaky floor. Only today he was up even earlier than usual. The clock on my bedside table read 5:30 when I heard him leave the bedroom. Strange, because it was Sunday, a day when even Ebner allowed himself to sleep in until 7. I lay there for a few more minutes, listening to the sounds of the house. Ebner clearly hadn't showered. There was no sound of water. Instead, I could hear him pacing around the living room, stopping occasionally, probably at the window facing the street. He was looking out for something, or waiting for someone. The dream was finally gone. I put on my robe and went downstairs. Ebner was standing at the window with the curtains open, staring intensely into the empty street. You're up early, I said, trying to keep my voice casual. Ebner flinched and turned around abruptly. Oh, it was you. Yeah, I couldn't sleep. He let go of the curtain and stepped away from the window. Happy Mother's Day, by the way. It sounded so formal, as if he were congratulating a woman he didn't know, not his wife of 45 years. But I was used to his restraint. Thank you, I said. I'll go make breakfast. I'm not hungry. Ebner shook his head. Just coffee. His face looked gaunt, dark circles under his eyes. It looked like he hadn't slept at all that night. In the kitchen, I automatically started making breakfast Sunday pancakes, as always. Ebner may not be hungry, but we have traditions that can't be broken. At least that's what he always said. As I mixed the batter, thoughts of yesterday's conversation with Randall swirled in my head. The package will be delivered tomorrow morning, he said. What was in that package? And why was Ebner so nervous? I was pouring batter into the pan when the phone rang. Ebner, who'd been pacing around the living room the whole time, rushed to the receiver and grabbed it before I could react. Hello? His voice sounded strained. Yes, this is the Holloway house. I flipped the pancake over and listened. Ebner spoke in short, curt sentences, and I could tell from his tone that the call wasn't what he feared. Yeah, she's home. You can put her on the phone, he said. And then he put his hand over the microphone and called out, Muriel, it's for you. Some kind of courier service. My heart skipped a beat. This was it. This was what Randall was talking about. I wiped my hands on a towel and picked up the phone. Hello, I said, trying to keep my voice from shaking. Good morning, Mrs. Holloway, said a pleasant female voice. This is express delivery. We have a package for you that should be delivered today. Will you be home during the day? Yes, I will, I answered, feeling Ebner's gaze on me. Good. Our courier will be at your place sometime between 10 and 12 o'clock. Have a good day. Thank you, you too. I hung up the phone and turned to Ebner. They'll deliver the package by noon today. What package? He asked, though I could see from the look on his face that he knew the answer. A Mother's Day present from Randall, I think, I answered, turning back to the stove where the pancake was starting to burn. Ebner followed me into the kitchen. I'm staying home, he said, pouring himself a cup of coffee. I want to be here when this package. I nodded, not looking at him. Of course he'd stay home. He'd made it clear yesterday that he wouldn't let me open the package without him. Breakfast passed in tense silence. Ebner barely touched his portion, looking out the window or at his watch most of the time. I couldn't eat either. My stomach churned with excitement. After breakfast, I did the usual Sunday chores. Laundry, cleaning, planning the weekly menu. Anything to keep my hands busy and take my mind off my anxious thoughts. Ebner, meanwhile, couldn't find a place to sit. He sat in a chair with a newspaper he didn't read, or walked around the house checking the windows, or locked himself in his office, where muffled phone conversations could be heard. At 10 o'clock, we both flinched at the doorbell. Ebner sprang from his seat and rushed into the hallway, but I was closer to the door and opened it first. A young man in a courier service uniform stood on the threshold with a small box in his hands. Mrs. Holloway? He asked with a polite smile. Yes, that's me, I replied, feeling Ebner come and stand behind me. I have a package for you. Sign here, please. The courier handed me an electronic tablet and a stylus. I signed with a trembling hand and took the box. It wasn't very heavy, but it was tightly sealed. On the top of the box was a familiar logo, stylized scales of justice with the inscription, Price and Partners. Thank you, Happy Mother's Day, said the delivery man, and walked away, leaving Ebner and me standing in the hallway with a package that suddenly felt heavier than lead. I carried the box into the living room, feeling Ebner follow my lead. Placing the package on the coffee table, I started looking for a pair of scissors to cut the packing tape. Don't open it! Ebner suddenly shouted, his voice breaking on a high note. I turned around, surprised by his reaction. Why? I asked, though I could tell from his pale face and widened eyes that my suspicions were justified. Ebner knew what was in that box, or at least he guessed. Can't you see it? He pointed a trembling finger at the law firm logo. I looked at it more closely and suddenly felt a chill run down my spine. I knew that logo. Price and Associates was the same law firm that had handled my mother's estate 5 years ago. The same firm through which the paperwork for the sale of her house had gone through. I froze, staring at the box. Memories came flooding back, the oak-paneled office, the serious young lawyer explaining the terms of the inheritance to me, Ebner sitting next to me and answering all my questions for me, the documents I signed without reading because Ebner took care of it. "What's inside, Ebner?" I asked quietly, not taking my eyes off the box. "How would I know?" He snarled, but his voice shook. "Some garbage Randall dug up to turn you against me." "Turn me against you?" I looked him in the eye. Why would he want to do that? And what would he dig up? Ebner looked away. "You know our son. He's always hated me, always thought I wasn't good enough for you. Now he's determined to completely destroy our family." "That doesn't answer my question," I said, feeling the resolve growing inside. "What's in that box, Ebner? What could Randall possibly know about you?" Ebner suddenly stepped forward and tried to grab the box. "Give it to me. I'll throw this stuff away." But I was faster. I grabbed the box and stepped back. "No, Neptu. It was a gift from my son, and I want to know what's in it." "Muriel, don't be stupid!" Ebner was almost shouting. "If you open that box, there's no turning back. Do you understand that?" There was panic in his eyes, real panic. In all our years of marriage, I had never seen Ebner so scared. It only strengthened my resolve. "What did you do, Ebner?" I asked, feeling cold inside. "What did you do with my mother's money?" He turned even paler. "Nothing. I just invested it like I said I would. For our future." "What investment?" I insisted. "Where did the money go? Why haven't I ever seen a single report, a single account statement?" "Because you don't understand anything about finance." Ebner raised his voice. "I was trying to protect you from unnecessary worry. Everything I did was for us." I shook my head, not believing a word of it. "I'm going to open that box, Ebner, and I'm going to find out the truth. If you do," his voice became menacingly quiet, "our marriage will be over. Do you understand that? 45 years together, and it's over because of this damn box." I looked at him, the man I'd lived most of my life with, the man who controlled my every move, every decision, every breath, the man I'd once loved and then just feared to disappoint. "Maybe it's worth it," I said quietly. Ebner recoiled as if I'd hit him. "You can't say that. Not after everything I've done for you." "What have you done for me, Ebner?" I asked, feeling the anger that had been building up inside me for years. "Forced me to drop out of college? Isolated me from my friends and family? Controlled every dime I made? Is that what you call caring?" "I gave you a house. I provided for you." He raised his voice. "If it wasn't for me, you'd still be living in the hole I pulled you out of." "I could have been a teacher," I said, surprised at how calm my voice sounded. "I could have had a life, my own money, my own decisions. And you never would have met me." Ebner grinned. "There would have been no Randall. Think about it. Randall." My heart squeezed at the thought of my son. The only thing I'm truly grateful to Ebner for is Randall. But did I have to put up with all this for my son's sake? Wouldn't it have been better for him to see his mother happy and independent instead of intimidated and depressed? "I'm going to open the box," I said firmly, "and I'm going to find out what you're hiding." Ebner stepped forward, his face contorted with anger. "I forbid you to do that. You are my wife. You must obey me." "I've obeyed you for 45 years, I replied, not backing down. "I think that's enough." I put the box on the coffee table and picked up the scissors. Ebner stood a few feet away from me, clenching and unclenching his fists, his face flushed with rage. "If you open that box," he said through gritted teeth, "you'll regret it. I swear you'll regret it." I looked into his eyes and saw not only anger, but fear. Real, panicked fear. Whatever was in that box could destroy his world. "I need to know the truth," I said, and started cutting the packing tape. My hands were shaking, but I didn't stop. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Ebner back up against the wall, as if he wanted to be as far away from what was about to happen as possible. The tape gave way, and I opened the lid of the box. Despite Ebner's protests, I resolutely pulled it off and peered inside. Inside the box was a neat stack of documents in clear files, a CD in a plastic envelope, and a sealed white envelope with my name written in Randall's familiar handwriting. On top of the documents glinted a small metal key on a simple ring. I lifted the envelope slowly, feeling its weight in my hand. Something told me that the contents of this letter would change my life forever. Ebner froze against the wall, his face ashen gray. The fear in his eyes was pure, unconcealed, the panic of a cornered animal. "Muriel, don't." His voice was hoarse. "Please." I'd never heard Ebner ask for anything so pleadingly. Usually he demanded, commanded, insisted, but never begged. Without looking at him, I opened the envelope and unfolded the sheets, written in Randall's neat handwriting. I began to read, and with each line my heart beat faster, and my hands trembled more and more. "Dear Mom, I hope this gift reaches you in time and in one piece." I thought for a long time whether to send it, knowing the uproar it would cause. But after our last conversation, I realized I couldn't keep quiet any longer. A few months ago, I started noticing oddities in my father's financial affairs. As an IT security specialist, I have access to certain databases and tools that helped me conduct my own investigation. What I discovered shocked me. Dad had been doing double bookkeeping for years. He had systematically embezzled your money, your paycheck, your pension, and worst of all, your grandmother's inheritance. Remember the house in Oregon that Grandma left you? Dad insisted on selling it, saying he'd put the money into safe investments. But those investments never existed. The money from the sale of the house, over $200,000, was transferred to his personal account in the Cayman Islands, which you didn't even know existed. But that's not all. Over the past 20 years, your father has transferred to this account almost all of your salary and most of your pension. In total, that amounts to about $350,000, money that rightfully belongs to you. In this box, you'll find all the proof you need: account statements, documents about the sale of the house, tax returns where your father hid this income. There's also a CD with recordings of phone conversations between your father and his financial advisor, where they discuss how best to hide the money from you. I also contacted the law firm Price & Associates, the same firm that handled my grandmother's estate. They did their own investigation and confirmed my findings. What's more, they found that many of the documents you signed were forged or contained false information. Mom, I know how hard this will be for you to accept, but you have to know the truth. Dad didn't just control you all these years. He ripped you off. He's robbed you of your financial independence, your ability to control your money, your life. But now you have a chance to change all that. Lawyers are ready to help you get your money back and hold your father accountable for financial fraud. It won't be easy, but you're not alone anymore. I'm with you, and I'll do everything I can to help you through this. In the box, you'll also find the keys to the house I bought for you in Greenville, just outside of Seattle. It's a small but cozy house with the garden you've always dreamed of. It's fully paid for and in your name. You can move in whenever you're ready to start a new life. I know it's a difficult decision. 45 years of marriage is not something to give up easily, but think about yourself, Mom. About the dreams you've put aside, about your independence that's been taken away from you, your future, which could be very different. Whatever you decide, I will support you. I can come and get you at any time. Just call me and I'll be there for you. Love, Randall. I dropped the letter into my lap, feeling the tears run down my cheeks. Everything suddenly made sense. The strange behavior of Ebner the past few days, his panic at the sight of the law firm logo, his insistence on trying to stop me from opening the box. "Is it true?" I asked, raising my eyes to Ebner, who stood leaning against the wall, his face white as chalk. "You stole my mother's money? My money?" Ebner was silent, his eyes staring at the floor. "Answer me." I raised my voice, which rarely happened. "Is it true?" He finally looked up, and in his eyes I saw not remorse, but anger. "You call this stealing? After all I've done for you? We needed that money." "We?" I shook my head incredulously. "Or did you? What did you spend it on, Ebner? What did over $500,000 go to?" "That's none of your business," he snapped. "I handled the finances as I saw fit, as head of the family." I started going through the documents in the box. Statements from the Cayman Islands account, confirming what Randall had said. Tax returns with underreporting. Documents from the sale of my mother's house for one amount and a wire transfer to Ebner's account for another, much larger amount. "You lied to me," I said, looking through the documents. "All these years you lied to me about our finances." "I was protecting you," Ebner exclaimed. "You wouldn't have known what to do with that kind of money anyway. You would have spent it on stupid things. On what, Ebner? The education you wouldn't let me get? The trips I wanted to take? On helping Randall when he went to college? Ebner snorted. He did just fine without your money, got a scholarship, got a job. It made him stronger. It made him embittered, I objected. He left us as soon as he could because you turned our house into a prison. And not just for me, but for him too. I continued to look through the documents, and with each new page, my heart clenched tighter and tighter. There it was, proof of years of deception. Proof that the man I'd trusted with my life had been using me all along. Why, Ebner? I asked, lifting my eyes from the papers. Why did you need so much money? What did you spend it on? He looked away, not wanting to meet my gaze. I don't have to answer to you. Yes, you do. I felt anger boiling up inside me. It's my money, my mother's money. You had no right to dispose of it without my knowledge. Ebner turned sharply toward me, his face contorted with rage. I had a right to everything. I'm your husband. I'm the head of the family. Everything that belongs to you belongs to me. No, Ebner. I shook my head. It doesn't work that way. Marriage is a partnership, not a dictatorship. You had no right to decide for me. You had no right to lie to me. Had no right to steal from me. I didn't steal, he growled. I was investing. I was creating our future. Our future? I grinned bitterly. Or yours. Where is that money now, Ebner? Where is the $500,000 you took from me? He was silent, his eyes running around the room, avoiding my gaze. It's gone, isn't it? I guessed. You spent it all. On what, Ebner? On gambling? On another woman? No! He shouted the word with such fury that I recoiled. I'm not like that. I would never. Then where is the money? I insisted. Tell me the truth right now, Ebner. I deserve it. He lowered his head, his shoulders slumped. I put it in stocks, risky investments. I thought I could double it, triple it. Give us a secure old age, minus I already knew what the answer would be. I lost everything, he whispered. All the money, every dime. I closed my eyes, feeling a wave of dizziness wash over me. $500,000. My financial independence. My freedom. All gone because of Ebner's greed and arrogance. You should have told me, I said quietly. You should have consulted me before risking so much money. You wouldn't have allowed it, he snapped. You were always too careful, too cowardly. No, Ebner, I shook my head. I was reasonable. And you were obsessed with control, so much so that you'd rather lose everything than share the truth with me. I looked at Randall's letter again, at the keys to the house in Greenville that glistened in the morning sunlight streaming through the window. I don't believe you, Ebner said suddenly, his voice harsh. It's all slander. Randall has always hated me. He fabricated those documents to destroy our family. I silently picked up one of the documents, a Cayman Islands account statement with Ebner's name as the owner, and an amount that exactly matched the sale price of my mother's house. Was that fabricated too? I asked quietly. Ebner swallowed, his apple of his eye twitching. It's more complicated than it looks. I did open that account, but only to protect our money from taxes. It's a perfectly legal practice. And this? I pulled out another document, a copy of the tax return that listed the amount from the sale of the house, but as coming from me, not Ebner. Paperwork, he waved his hand. Everybody does it. What about this? I picked up the CD. Is it paperwork too? Or should I listen to you and your financial advisor discuss ways to keep my money from me? Ebner turned even paler. You're not going to do that. Why not? I stood up, feeling a sudden surge of strength. I have a right to know the truth, the whole truth. I headed for the stereo in the corner of the living room, but Ebner rushed in front of me. Muriel, stop! He grabbed my arm. Please, please, let's talk. Let's talk about this calmly. I released my hand from his grip. What is there to talk about, Ebner? You stole my money. You lied to me for years. You manipulated me, controlled me, isolated me. What is there to talk about? I loved you, he exclaimed. I still love you. Everything I did was out of love. I shook my head, not believing my ears. That's not love, Ebner. It's control. It's manipulation. It's abusive. A word I'd recently heard on TV, but never thought I'd apply to my life hung in the air between us. Ebner recoiled as if I'd hit him. Abuse? His voice shook with anger. I provided for you for 45 years. I gave you a home, a family, everything you have. And you call that abusive? Yes, Ebner. I looked him straight in the eye. When you control every aspect of my life, when you take away my ability to make my own decisions, when you steal my money, that's abusive, and I'm not going to take it anymore. What are you going to do about it? He grinned, but there was fear in his eyes. Go away? Where? To Randall's? Do you think he really wants his old mom living with him? I have a house. I clutched the keys in my hand. A house my son bought for me. A house where I can live freely without your control. You won't survive on your own, Ebner shook his head. You've never lived alone. You don't know how to manage money. You don't know how to make decisions. You've always needed me. No, Ebner, I felt a calm inside me. You're the one who made me believe I couldn't live without you. You made me believe I was weak and helpless. But I'm not. I'm stronger than you think. Stronger than I thought I was. I started packing the papers back into the box. Ebner watched me, his face a mask of shock and disbelief. You can't just walk away, he said finally. We have joint accounts, joint property. You can't just take your share and walk away. I know, I nodded. That's why Randall hired lawyers. They're going to help me sort all this out. Lawyers? Ebner turned even paler. You want to sue me? After 45 years of marriage? I want justice, Ebner, I replied calmly. I want what's rightfully mine back. What about me? There was panic in his voice. You're just going to leave me after all these years? You should have thought of that when you decided to steal $500,000 from me, I said, closing the box. Muriel, please. Ebner suddenly knelt down in front of me, his eyes full of tears. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but we can fix it. We can start over. I'll change, I promise. Just don't go. I looked at this man, my husband, the father of my son, the man I'd lived most of my life with, and felt nothing but exhaustion and disappointment. You're not going to change, Ebner, I said quietly. You are who you are, and I can't live with that anymore. Muriel, please. He held out his arms to me. I love you. I've always loved you. In my own way, but I have. Perhaps. I nodded. But your love suffocated me. Your love robbed me of my freedom, my dreams, my future. I can't live like this anymore. What will I do without you? There was despair in his voice. Who will take care of me? And there it was, the real confession. Not how will I live without you, but who will take care of me? It was always about him, his needs, his wants. You're a grown man, Ebner, I said, picking up the box. You can handle it. If you leave, his voice was suddenly hard, you won't come back. I won't take you back when you realize you can't live alone. I'm not coming back, Ebner, I replied calmly. And I will be able to live alone. For the first time in my life, I would be truly free. I headed for the stairs, intending to go up to the bedroom and gather the essentials. Ebner jumped to his feet and rushed after me. You can't just leave, he shouted. This house is yours too. Half of all the possessions are yours. You can't just walk away. I know, I said, not turning around. We'll deal with this later. Through lawyers. Lawyers. He laughed, but it wasn't funny. You think they're on your side? You think they care about you? All they want is money. They'll suck every last dime out of you. I stopped in the middle of the stairs and turned to him. Unlike you, who's already sucked every last dime out of me. Ebner stopped talking, his face twisted with anger. You're going to regret this, Muriel. I swear you will. I already do, I said quietly. Ed. I regret the 45 years I spent with a man who didn't respect me enough to be honest with me, who didn't love me enough to let me be me. I turned and continued up the stairs, feeling myself getting lighter with each step, as if I was throwing off the heavy burden I'd been carrying all these years. In the bedroom, I pulled an old suitcase out of the closet and started putting the essentials into it. Clothes, toiletries, a few books that were especially dear to me, pictures of Randall. I didn't take anything of value, not the jewelry Ebner had given me on our wedding anniversaries, not the expensive porcelain figurines I'd collected over the years. It all seemed part of another life now, a life I was leaving behind. When I came downstairs with my suitcase, Ebner was sitting in his chair, staring into emptiness. He looked suddenly aged, broken. So you're really leaving, he said without looking at me. Yes, I said, putting my suitcase by the door. Where? Greenville, to the house Randall bought for me. And what happens next? He looked up at me at last, and it wasn't anger in his eyes, but emptiness. What happens to us? We're gone, Ebner, I said softly. You ruined that with your actions. I can change. His voice sounded lifeless, as if he didn't believe what he was saying. Maybe. I nodded. But not for me. I'm not going back. I pulled out my phone and dialed the number of the cab. While I waited for an answer, Ebner suddenly stood up and walked to the window. I always thought we'd grow old together, he said, looking outside. That we'd sit on the veranda, watching the sunset, holding hands, like in those silly novels you read. That's what I thought, I said, putting my phone down after ordering a cab. But you chose a different path. You chose control over partnership, lies over honesty. I just wanted to be the head of the family, he turned to me. Like my father, like all the men in my family. The head of the family is supposed to take care of his loved ones, Ebner, I said. Not use them. He was silent, looking at me with an expression I couldn't read. Anger? Regret? Confusion? The cab will be here in 15 minutes, I said, breaking the silence. You're not even going to give me a chance? He asked quietly. After 45 years? You haven't given me a chance all these 45 years, Ebner, I replied. A chance to be myself, a chance to live my life, a chance to make my own decisions. He lowered his head, admitting defeat. I'm going to miss you, he said finally. You'll miss my presence, Ebner, I shook my head. My service, but not me. You never really knew me. You only saw what you wanted to see. I walked to the door and picked up my suitcase. The box of papers was already securely packed inside. The keys to my new home were in my coat pocket, their weight feeling like the promise of a new life. Muriel. Ebner stepped toward me, his hand outstretched as if he wanted to hold me. Please. Goodbye, Ebner, I said, opening the door. The lawyers will contact you about dividing the property. I stepped out onto the porch and closed the door behind me without looking back. The sun was shining brightly in the spring sky. The air was fresh and full of promise. The unknown was ahead of me, but for the first time in years it didn't scare me. For the first time I felt truly free. The cab pulled up a few minutes later. The driver, a young man with a friendly smile, helped me load my suitcase into the trunk. Where are we going? He asked, opening the door for me. To the bus station, I answered. I had to catch a bus to Greenville. Are you going on vacation? He asked, starting the engine. No, I smiled, looking at the house that had been my prison for the past 45 years. I'm going home. I woke up to the sound of rain drumming on the motel roof. For a few moments I lay still, trying to figure out where I was. The room was alien, featureless, with pale green walls and shabby carpet. On the bedside table was a plastic cup of water and my room keys. My suitcase, still unpacked, stood by the door. Then the memories came in a wave. The box, the papers, the conversation with Ebner, my decision to leave. Yesterday, after I left the house, I didn't go straight to Greenville. The bus wasn't until the next morning, so I decided to spend the night at a motel on the outskirts of Powell. The last thing I wanted was for Ebner to find me and try to bring me home. I sat on the bed and rubbed my face with my hands. For the first time in 45 years, I woke up alone, without the sound of Ebner's footsteps, without the smell of the coffee he always made in the morning, without him grumbling about the weather or the news. It was a strange feeling, a mixture of freedom and fear, relief and uncertainty. I picked up my phone and saw 3 missed calls from Ebner and 1 from Randall. There was also a message from my son. Mom, call me when you wake up. I'm worried. Love you. My heart squeezed with love for this man, my boy, who had grown up so caring and kind despite everything he'd been through. I dialed his number and he answered after the first beep. Mom, are you okay? His voice sounded concerned. Yes, honey. I'm fine, I answered, surprised at how calm my voice sounded. I'm at the Pine Forest Motel on the Powell exit. The bus to Greenville isn't until this morning. Did you left him? Randall seemed unable to believe his ears. Yes. I took a deep breath. I read your letter, went through the paperwork. You were right about everything, Ebner. He did take all the money, and he lost it on the stock market. Randall swore quietly, which wasn't like him at all. That's what I thought. Mom, I'm finishing an important presentation for a client right now, but I'm flying out to see you right after. I'll be in Greenville by tonight. No need, honey. I shook my head, even though he couldn't see it. I'll be fine on my own. I'll get home, get settled in. You can come this weekend if you want. Are you sure? I could hear the doubt in his voice. I could cancel and come right away. I'm sure, I said firmly. I need to be alone, to process everything that's happened, start living on my own. Okay, Randall sighed, but promise to call me every day. And if you need anything at all, you'll let me know right away. I promise, I smiled, feeling the warmth in my chest from his concern. Thank you, son, for everything. Don't thank me, Mom. His voice shook. I should have realized what was going on a lot sooner. I should have protected you. It's not your fault, I said softly. None of us are to blame except Ebner, and that's all going to change now. I'm not going back to him. He called me yesterday, Randall said suddenly, yelling, threatening to sue, saying I'd ruined his family. I sighed. It was so much like Ebner to blame everyone but himself. Don't mind him. He's just angry because he's lost control. He said he's going to sue for slander for interfering with his personal affairs for, Randall stammered, for alienation of marital affection, whatever that means. Those are empty threats, I shook my head. He has no cause of action. You just exposed the truth. All the documents prove it. I know, Randall said quietly. I just wanted you to be ready. He's not going to give up that easily. I know. It was my turn to sigh, but I'm not giving up either, not this time. After talking to Randall, I packed my things and went to breakfast at the little cafe next to the motel. It felt strange, sitting alone at a table, ordering what I wanted rather than what Ebner would approve, taking my time, savoring every sip of coffee. Little joys I'd been deprived of for so long. The bus to Greenville left at 10:30. I arrived at the station early, bought my ticket and sat waiting, looking at the other passengers. A young couple with a baby, an elderly man with a newspaper, a group of teenagers with backpacks, just ordinary people living ordinary lives. Soon I would be one of them, not Ebner Holloway's wife, but just Muriel, a woman living her own life. My phone rang again. Ebner. I hesitated before answering it, but decided it was best to end it now. Hello? Muriel. His voice sounded hoarse, like he'd been up all night. Where are you? It doesn't matter, Ebner, I said calmly. I'm not coming back. Look, I understand that you're upset. He began in that condescending tone he always used when he thought I was being unreasonable. But let's talk about this like adults. Come home and we'll work it out. No, Ebner. I shook my head, though he couldn't see it. There's nothing more to discuss. You stole my money. You lied to me for years. You controlled every aspect of my life. There's no excuse for that. I can change. There was a pleading note in his voice. Muriel, please. 45 years together. Doesn't that mean anything? It does, I agreed. That's why it hurts so much. Because in those 45 years, you've never once treated me as an equal. Never once let me be me. That's not true, he exclaimed. I've always taken care of you, always protected you. You controlled me, Ebner, I said tiredly. That's not caring or protecting, it's control. He was silent and I could hear his heavy breathing. What am I going to do without you? He asked finally, and there was so much despair in his voice that for a moment I felt a pang of regret. The same thing you've always done, I answered, living my life. Only now you have to cook your own food, wash your own clothes, clean your own house. That's not what I meant, he snapped. You're my wife, my life partner. Who's going to be there for me? Find someone who's willing to put up with your control, I said, feeling the irritation displace the regret. Or change your habits. The choice is yours. You can't just walk away. His voice became hard. We share the same house, the same bills, the same life. I know, I nodded. And the lawyers will help us divide everything fairly. In the meantime, I'll live apart. Lawyers, he laughed bitterly, just like Randall had planned. Put you on me? Make you hire lawyers to suck all the money out of us. Randall didn't plan any of that, I countered. He just wanted me to know the truth. And now I do. Muriel, think about our history. His voice was pleading again. All the years we've spent together, our son, our home. Are you really willing to throw it all away because of one mistake? It wasn't one mistake, Ebner, I said quietly. It was a lifetime of mistakes, and I don't want to live like that anymore. If you hang up now, his voice became threatening. Don't think you can come back when you realize you made a mistake. I won't take you back. I'm not going back, Ebner, I replied calmly. Never. Goodbye. I hung up the phone, feeling strangely relieved. It was as if the last thread tying me to the past had been cut. I'm free, truly free. The bus arrived right on schedule. I took the window seat and watched Powell, the city I'd lived in for most of my adult life, slowly disappear around the corner. Strangely, I felt no sadness or nostalgia, only relief and a quiet excitement for the unknown. The drive to Greenville took a little over 3 hours. I stared out the window at the passing scenery, fields, forests, small towns, and thought about my life. About how I'd let Ebner control me. About how I'd given up my dreams for his. About how many years I'd wasted living someone else's life instead of my own. But there were bright memories too. Randall's birth, his first steps, his success in school, his graduation. My job at an insurance company where, despite the monotony of the tasks, I felt needed and useful. My garden, where I grew roses and lilies, creating my own little oasis of beauty. Not everything in my life was bad, but now I could decide for myself which memories to take with me into the future and which to leave behind. Greenville greeted me with a sunny day and a fresh breeze. The town was smaller than Powell, but cozier and greener. The main street was lined with small stores, cafes, and a library. People strolled leisurely, stopping to talk to each other. The atmosphere was friendly and relaxed. I took a cab from the bus station and showed the driver the address Randall had given me in the letter. The car turned off the main street and drove through quiet residential neighborhoods. The houses were small but well kept, with neat gardens and painted fences. Here we are, said the driver, stopping in front of a small house with blue shutters. 27 Maple Street. I paid the driver, picked up my suitcase, and stood in front of the house that was now mine. It wasn't new, but it was in good condition, with a recently painted facade and new shingles on the roof. The small front garden was neatly trimmed, and there were pots of bright spring flowers on the porch. Randall had taken care of everything. My kind, caring son. Tears came to my eyes, but I quickly brushed them away. Now was not the time for tears. Now was the time for a new beginning. I walked up the porch steps and pulled out the keys I'd found in the box along with my papers. They were new, shiny, with a keychain in the shape of a little house. Keys to my new house, my own home. Inserting the key into the lock, I felt my heart beat faster. It wasn't just a house, it was a symbol of my new life, my independence, my freedom. The door opened easily without a creak, as if inviting me in. Inside, the house was bright and spacious, despite its small size. A living room with a large window overlooking the garden. A small but functional kitchen, 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. The furniture was simple but comfortable, in light colors that created a feeling of spaciousness and light. On the kitchen table, I found a note from Randall. Dear Mom, welcome to your new home. I hope you like it. I have tried to make it cozy and comfortable. The refrigerator is stocked with groceries. The cupboards are stocked with everything you need. In the bedroom, you'll find new clothes. I hope I got the sizes right. In the bathroom, all the toiletries. I wanted you to be able to start a new life without worrying about the little things in life. All you have to do is unpack your suitcase and feel at home. In the living room, a new phone with my number in my contacts, as well as local delivery, cab, and emergency numbers, sits on the table. Next to it is a folder with my house papers and information about Greenville, city map, bus schedules, store addresses, etc. There's also a bank card in your name. I've opened an account for you and put enough money in it for you to live comfortably until you decide what you want to do next. It's not a loan or a gift. It's your money that I've just saved for you. I'll come back on Saturday as we agreed. In the meantime, settle in, rest, get used to your new life. You deserve the best, Mom. And I'm so proud of your courage and determination. Love, Randall. I reread the note several times, feeling the tears flowing down my cheeks. But they weren't tears of grief or regret. They were tears of gratitude and love. Gratitude for having such a son. Love that helped me find the strength to make a new beginning. I walked around the house, studying every room, every corner. Everything was exactly as I could have wished. Simple, functional, cozy. No ostentatious luxury, no frills, just everything I needed to live comfortably. In the master bedroom, I found a closet of new clothes, simple but quality, my style. Randall really knew me well. On the bedside table was a picture. Randall and I at his graduation from college, both smiling, happy, one of the few truly happy days of my life. I unpacked my suitcase, laid out the few belongings I'd taken from my old house, and sat down on my bed, feeling suddenly tired. The last 2 days had been emotionally exhausting, and now that the adrenaline had subsided, I felt how tired I really was. But it was a good tiredness. Tiredness after an important step, after a meaningful decision. A fatigue that would soon be replaced with new strength and energy for a new life. I walked out the back door to the garden and stopped, struck by its beauty. Small but perfectly manicured, it was full of blooming bushes and beds of bright colors. In the far corner was a wooden bench under an old apple tree, creating a nice shade, a perfect place for reading or just quiet reflection. Randall knew of my love of gardening and had made sure to create a little paradise for me. Here I could grow my roses and lilies, create new arrangements, experiment with plants I'd always dreamed of, but which Ebner considered a pointless waste of time and money. I sat on the bench and closed my eyes, enjoying the silence, broken only by birdsong and rustling leaves. No instructions from Ebner, no complaints or demands from him, just me and my new life. In the evening, after a light dinner, I decided to go out for a walk to familiarize myself with the neighborhood. Greenville turned out to be exactly what I had envisioned it to be. Quiet, friendly, peaceful. People nodded and smiled as I walked by. Some even stopped to say hello and introduce themselves. "You must be the new neighbor from Maple Street," said an elderly woman walking a small dog. "I'm Dorothy. I live 2 houses down from you." "Muriel," I introduced myself, feeling strangely excited by this simple act of introduction. "Yes, I just moved in today." "Welcome to Greenville," Dorothy smiled. "You'll like it here. It's a quiet town, but there's lots to do. There's a book club, a gardening club, a community center with activities for people our age." Our age. That phrase made me smile. Yes, I am no longer young. I'm 67 and I've lived most of my life in Ebner's shadow. But now, in this moment, I felt younger than ever. "Thank you," I said sincerely. "I'd love to join the gardening group. I really like flowers." "That's great!" Dorothy brightened up. "We meet every Wednesday at 4 o'clock at the community center. I'd love to see you there. In the meantime, if you need anything, advice, help, just company over a cup of tea, feel free to drop in." We exchanged a few more sentences and parted ways, but this short conversation left a warm feeling in my soul. Perhaps here in Greenville I would find not only a new home, but also new friends. Perhaps here I could be not just Ebner's wife, but myself, Muriel, a woman with her own interests, opinions, desires. When I got home, I showered, put on a new nightgown I'd found in the closet, and went to bed with a book, the Elise Waverly novel Pearl had mentioned. Ebner had never approved of my love of reading, thinking it a waste of time. But now I could read as much as I wanted without his disapproving looks or comments. Before I went to bed, I called Randall to let him know that I was safely home and settled in. "The house is beautiful," I said, unable to contain the excitement in my voice. "And the garden. Oh, Randall, it's just heavenly." "I'm so glad you like it." His voice sounded happy. "I wanted you to have a place where you could feel comfortable and safe." "Thank you, son." I felt a lump come up in my throat. "For everything. For the house, for your support, for opening my eyes." "I should have done it sooner." I could hear the regret in his voice. "I should have realized what was going on, should have protected you." "You couldn't have known," I countered. "I didn't let myself see the truth. And besides, you were a child. It wasn't your responsibility to protect your parents." "Whatever," he sighed. I'm glad you're free now. That you can live the life you want. I'm glad too, I said, and it was the truth. For the first time in years, I felt alive. After I talked to Randall, I turned off the light and lay in the dark, listening to the silence of the house. Not Ebner's snoring, not the creak of floorboards under his heavy footsteps, not the sound of the television he often left on at night. Just the soft rustle of leaves outside the window and the quiet ticking of the clock on the wall. Strangely, I didn't feel lonely. On the contrary, I felt the presence of something new, fresh, full of possibilities. My new life was just beginning, and I was ready to face it with an open heart.